think we have a nice background.
Yeah.
Yes. You can be a little bit even closer. I think it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It works.
So welcome everybody on this fantastic live Agile interview from actually 14th floor. We are at Cambridge Innovation Center. And we have a beautiful view here for Charles River. And I'm happy to have my guests here, special guests in this live interview. You know, that's really live one, without pre-recording. So I'm really glad James Dunn, this is James Dunn, which I met recently here at Cambridge Innovation Center. And James Dunn is a lawyer entrepreneur, which is supporting startups at different age, let's say, stages of their journey. And we're going to, of course, I would like to ask more questions, but we're going to ask 3 crucial questions regarding entrepreneurship and how we can, you know, as a startup founders, find a way. And first of all, I would like to start with compliment to James to participate. And I really like when we had the initial conversation that we, based on this conversation, I really was impressed by James, in a way, personal drive to help startups, but also his really long-term experience in this support, ongoing support. So the first question I'd like to ask you, but first, wait, I'd like to ask you, how are you today in this beautiful day?
I'm having a great day. As I told you before we went live, I have a Friday morning, 5:30 in the morning hike with a friend of mine on a hill outside of Boston.
Yeah.
And we go up and down the hill and around it. We find a new trail every day. So it was good. We didn't see any owls this morning, which is one of our targets, but oh well. It's a nice way to start a Friday.
Yes. Morning. No wild, unfortunately, animals, but yeah, they're not going to be there, of course. So James, the first question is about, you know, regarding your personal experience. The entrepreneurial journey for many of us, scientific founders, can be a fascinating learning experience. However, mistakes during this journey may happen. So based on your long-term experience, which are the 3 biggest mistakes we should avoid?
Yeah. Well, one that I see frequently, and frankly, here at the CIC, you meet people from all different countries. And I still have a good friend. He used to work here, who is a Russian who came over here, and he emphasized to me the trust but verify Russian proverb. Mm-hmm. And President Reagan from our U.S. past noted that as well. He adopted that when he was dealing with Russia, or the USSR at that time. And that is very important. People will often, on the way into a relationship, a startup relationship is like any other relationship, people will tell you how good they are at something, and there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, you told me you're really fast. What is your time in the 100-meter dash? And if they can't give you a time, they can't give you some actual evidence, then you have to do a little more digging and really push. And if they continue to tell you in vague terms how good they are, how many things they've accomplished, but they can't give you a concrete example, you have to start to worry. So that's one of the first things I look for, is someone who's not afraid to show you what they've done.
Yeah, to share, right?
Yeah, and I think I told you previously, Bloomberg Business News, which I have, my ex-wife, frankly, was involved with Bloomberg Business News in the journalist department. And their fundamental rule of their journalism, which I think is brilliant for anything, I'm a lawyer for a lawyer as well, is show, don't tell, don't tell. Show with the evidence, don't tell. Again, not the I'm fast, but I ran a 9.75 100-yard dash.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one.
So in my mind, say you guys, especially the scientific founders, really, you know, scientific approach. To prove something, you have to show something, right? So you have to show some piece of data. So really evidence.
Yeah. And that, as a lawyer, I do a lot of litigation. So it's actually in the courtroom, sometimes a trial. And you have to have evidence. Like after a while, the judges will say, where is the evidence? A lot of lawyers, some of the best lawyers I've met have very mathematical minds. And so they kind of mirror what you scientists have as far as their mental side.
Yeah.
Some of them are former scientists. Another one that I've seen is the uncertainty. And sometimes it's a rush or just not knowing where to position someone. So uncertainty in the role of the person being brought in. And that You may know what you want them to do, but you don't know how to categorize them. And that's like an owner. Are they an owner? Are they an employee? Are they a contractor?
Yeah.
No, that's important because it sets expectations. It's also important because if you get it wrong, particularly in a state like Massachusetts and California, which are two of the largest startup states in the country, the rules are really punitive against an employer or someone who hires someone and calls them a contractor, but they got it wrong.
Yeah.
And so you really want to make sure you get that right. If you get it wrong, it could cost you a lot of money down the road. Not to mention it can fray the relationship because people are like, I thought I was this, and now you're telling me I'm not. It can be ugly in that sense.
Yeah, it can be very confusing and legally, having consequences. Yeah.
Another, I guess, the third one is yes, you entrepreneurs often love your project. It's your baby. I mean,
I feel sitting here.
Well, it is.
I'm exactly fitting this profile.
Being a guy, I never had a baby. I have children, but I can see like when I'm working on something and I've worked on like an appellate brief, I've been working on it forever. When I finish it, I'm like, I say, wow, I'm never going to give birth, but this is kind of like the feeling like I've just produced something and it's part of me and it's so important. That's great, but don't fall in love with it like it is your baby, because you want to have the motivation, but you still want to be able to step back and have an objective viewpoint. I had a startup client of mine who was going through the business divorce stage of things, unfortunately. And that's when I became involved with them, when they reached out to me when they were going through this process. And they had been, I was really representing the financial side of it. There were members of the board who had put in millions of dollars into this startup. And they had been told by the CEO, original founder, about how many eyeballs he had on this software that they were putting out over the web. And he kept talking about eyeballs, and he had graphics about eyeballs. And maybe year one that was okay, but it was like year 7, and they're putting in millions and millions. And I'm like, he's still telling you about eyeballs. What about these things called dollars? I was kind of like, where are that? Or actual users. Even users, if they're not paying, at least it's more thing. But eyeballs, like someone looked at your website, looked at this and played with it for a little while.
For 7 years is too much.
Yeah, but never signed up. So that's another thing. Yes, fall in love with your project and be motivated.
And eyeballs are important, by the way, but not for 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. Eyeballs are a good initial indicator, but sooner or later you have to start moving toward concrete things, or shift your model, which is what people do a lot of the time. So that's the third one, I think.
Yes, great. Thank you very much for this very insightful answer, and also giving this examples to really illustrate it well. So the question third, we would just mention about business marriage. I didn't want to dare pick it on it yet, but I think this is important question, which, brings this interview in very vulnerable space for all of us founders. When assuming that our business, we marriage with our co-founder will last, but what if it will not? And the question is, we at some point perhaps have to, let's say enter a situation where we have to divorce. And of course we have to make sure that this is mutually required or wanted, but we want to divorce. And now we have a situation, we want to divorce. And the question is, can you please let us know, James, how to do it right without emotions? Because I think emotions will never help us in making right decisions, meaning also legally, which are the first 3 steps which we should think of as founders, or co-founders, right? Here we talk about this business marriage.
Yeah, that is one of the advantages of attorneys, me or someone else who can become involved, is that our job is to become you, really, get all your motivations, your desires, your aims, understand them, but then provide our knowledge of the law and a dispassionate approach, which is hard. You have probably some knowledge of the law, but you're obviously going to have passion. We're going to be able to look at things more objectively. So that's one thing you may want to do, is have, if it's not a lawyer, at least someone who can give you a less passionate view on what's happening. The first thing you want, and this is, we haven't talked about it, but on the entrance to the agreement, you hopefully have a good agreement. There's no perfect agreement. The best drawn contracts don't anticipate something because the world changes, or you just didn't anticipate it. Both sides looked and they didn't. So you could still have a problem that isn't addressed by the contract. It's not like an automatic 1 + 1 = 2 and it's over. We all agree. But if you don't have that, I think one of the most important things, the business marriage and having to get the divorce better is don't overpromise on the way in. Like if you have this relationship and you overpromise to someone about what they're going to get, it's going to be hard to have on the way out to get back to a fair amount, because maybe you suggested to try to get them into the relationship as an employee or co-founder.
You want to attract them to join you.
Of course, you want to attract them. And I mean, it's like in the romantic dating, people want to look good and they want to, you know, if I'm wearing a toupee and I have to take it off one of these days, the person's like, I didn't know you were bald. I'm like,
you want to make good impression, so that's very.
You want to make a good impression, but you don't want to deceive in the way in. And it's not intentional. It's usually just trying too hard to get someone involved. So that you have to be careful with that. So like I like to say, label things as goals. Try to be very clear that this is a goal, this is an aspiration, this is an aim, not a promise, unless you have to make it a promise. And then if you make it a promise, make it clear and don't overpromise. You'd rather have an obtainable promise, and then you can always add on compensation to add on benefits if you feel like it's warranted. On the way out, try to reacquire shares, membership interests, whatever the entity you have, or if it's a partnership interest, try to buy out the partner. You want to try to do that because as early as you can at least get the ownership aspect resolved. You may still have the person saying, well, I think you owe me wages, whatever. But if you can reacquire the shares, reacquire the ownership interest, that's fundamental for any type of venture capitalist you're going to go to in the future. Because if they see, frankly, like a lingering fruit on a tree, someone who used to be part of the team, they're still on the tree, wrong hand, they're still on the tree, just hanging there. I'm reaching outside the screen. But they're hanging there, but they're no longer providing anything of value. So they're now just weighing down the branch, and they're weighing down the branch of your entity. And so venture capitalists say, well, why do you have people on your cap table who were there for 6 months or a year and are doing nothing, and we're 3 years later? Like that's a red flag. You want to, they'll understand if you had it, but you took care of it. It shows like, okay, I recognize
you took
it,
some
I
actions,
took care of it.
And if you don't know how to start, you also please contact James. I will also share it if he's fine. James, share your email. If it's possible,
that would be fine.
Of your company to contact, because I understand not everybody is emotionally ready to start doing it on himself. But
no, absolutely. And then I guess the other thing, and this is, we talked about this, I try to approach the law like chess. I'm a decent chess player, not a great chess player. There's actually someone here who is a former Turkish national champion. So, I mean, I've talked with him. I'm like, I don't even want to go near a chessboard with him because he's a phenomenal grandmaster. But chess is how I try to approach the law. Poker is how you deal with negotiations. Good poker players are often good chess players. There's a large overlap. And the poker skills become very essential because you know what you want, you know what your goal is. You don't have to show all your cards right away. Matter of fact, sometimes you never have to show your cards because you position things well enough that the other side folds, agrees to your position, and which is in poker would be folding.
And we also talk here about nasty cards. So if your co-founder plays ethically, which you can recognize and understand and appreciate, that you should not show these nasty cards. But if there's a situation which there can be nasty game, I think that's what also James, right?
No, absolutely. So, you have, and you try to be a consistent approach, but you try to only reveal your position to the extent it's necessary. You don't have to spend or offer every ounce of money that you're planning on offering to resolve a situation until it's the right time to go all in effectively. Because sometimes you can resolve it for a lot more reasonably.
Yes. And you can end perhaps and this marriage agreement. There should be also maybe divorce agreement. That's what could be possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, on the way in, people will have a breakup, they'll say, I mean, virtually every partnership agreement or corporate shareholder agreement has a discussion about how the buyout happens, when it happens. Now, of course, it's usually after a while the shares vest, and all of a sudden the shares arguably have vested. And then you get into situations, usually the way to get around a vesting date problem, if you're the entrepreneur, the founder who has an entity and you're hiring someone, now they have vested shares and you don't want them to be involved in the entity anymore because they're not producing, and you regret that you let them vest on a certain schedule. Sometimes, and you have to be careful, but sometimes they've done actions that you can actually discharge them for cause, which it's tricky, but basically it means it's not just that you weren't really good at your job, but you've done something wrong. And if you can show they've done something wrong, they've wronged the company in some way, that will usually, most agreements will say that will usually give you a right to buy it back for whatever they bought in. If they bought in for $10 a share, you can, or 10 cents a share, you can buy them back for 10 cents a share rather than having to pay market value or an appraisal value.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, James.
No problem.
Fantastic to have you here and here, especially I really like the question. I like all the actually answers you provided because they give the stepwise, right, from moving from the, what we should avoid, right? So more preventive approach, how to take, but also what we should be aware if things go wrong. It's it can happen. It can happen. It's not like we would like that everything lasts forever, which is good.
Well, that reminds me, like we had talked before, you had asked me some questions before about on the way in, how do you choose the person who you're going to team up with?
Exactly.
And I mentioned to you, like, I'm a Sly and the Family Stone. It's a rock group from the 60s, 70s, the psychedelic rock. They have a song, Everyday People. Check it out on YouTube. It's spectacular. It's kind of like a life motto. Basically, everyone is a person. They're the same way. And you have to focus. You don't care about external characteristics. You care about what they do for the entity. But talking about on the way out, you want to make sure if you hire someone and you're bringing them in as an ownership, think about that. That is a true marriage. You're saying, I view you as a long-term person. Maybe wait and maybe have them bring them in and not buy in the full way, kind of like dating someone before you get married. Do that with someone if you can. Sometimes you need to offer a lot up front, and you can offer them a pathway, but don't promise the end result, because you may have someone who you bring in and they're really great for your first year and a half stage of your entity. But if you see how your entity is going to be at year 3 or 4, they may no longer be relevant. And so that's a person who you probably shouldn't be looking to bring in on an ownership level of any significance.
Yes, great, definitely. And I think finding this owner, of course, it's something which you just now comment how to also do it, but it's a process.
It's easier said than done, just like finding the right mate in any situation or partner in any situation. There's challenges. But
so thank you very much, James, again, for your wonderful answers. And thank you for sharing your
seeing everyone,
expertise. Yes. And don't be afraid to actually approach lawyers. James is a really great one. He's an entrepreneur and he's really happy to help you.
I'll go with great, a high level of praise, but I do my best.
Yes, thanks a lot. And hopefully, guys, if you have some questions, as I said, we will place email of James' contact if you would like to reach to him in your personal, situation or startup situation. And he's, I think, very happy to help.
Great, thank you.
So thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Yes.